A couple of days later at the facility. My mother, Unit Bravo, and I all wait with varying degrees of patience in the blank, stark room. A full-length mirror with a plain white plastic frame has been placed at the far end, ready for Fox's arrival. A clock on the wall ticks in incessant beat as the quiet wait drags on. The reflection of the group of us stares back from the mirror, the glaring light ahead almost too bright against the silver surface of the glass. I lean back against my chair and roll my neck out to ease some of the strain. Then, finally, there's a watery bloop as the mirror's surface turns to liquid. We all stand as Fox steps through and enters the room. He's wearing a dark, tight leather coat and a flamboyant embroidered cream shirt with an equally extravagant collar. Maybe it's his business outfit. The errant thought is interrupted as Rebecca leaves the group, stepping towards him. She too is wearing her best businesslike suit jacket. "Have you made your decision?" she asks, foregoing the usual pleasantries. There's an unusual strain of tension to her voice. Her hands are pressed to her thighs, her lips pushed tightly together. Falk gives a nod before a scowl of anger twists his pale features. "We do not put stock in this agency or its lack of true justice. We will not sign. We have..." His black eyes slide in my direction before returning to Rebecca. "Received a more appealing offer elsewhere." A palpable increase of tension weighs across the room. Unit Bravo and I all glance at one another in understanding. It must be with the rogues. "Is there nothing we can do to change your mind?" Nat pleads with her arms spread wide. "I do not trust this place or its people." Park's gaze shifts to take in everyone in the room. "Our decision is final." Rebecca inches forward, her shoulders pulled back and her head held up. Strictness makes her expression tight. "You understand the agency will have no choice but to take measures against you should you or any of your people show hostility." Park slides closer, towering over her shorter frame, and then tilts his head up to stare down his long nose at her. "You can try." Let her handle it herself. I stand firmly in place. Rebecca is more than capable of handling herself, and even with an opponent so much taller and bigger, she doesn't seem threatened in the slightest. "I think you should leave," she orders, through very slow words. Her hand slides onto her hip, where a can of DMB gleams under the bright light. Park's gaze drops to it before a sneer forms on his face. He turns to slink back through the mirror. An audible sigh of relief falls from us all. "Well, that didn't go exactly to plan." Bra comments to break the silence as she flops into a chair. Morgan scoffs. "It went about as shit as it could have. I just wish it didn't have to end like that," Nat adds, shaking her head and running a hand through her hair. Bra shifts so she can grin over at me. "Guess you're getting to enjoy our failures as well as our successes, now you're one of us." "It's not a failure on our part," Ava interjects with a frown. "We did all we could. This decision is the Maluset's and theirs alone. The consequences on their heads." Another quiet falls at the weight of that statement. "So what happens to the carnival?" Fra asks. I shrug. "I doubt they'll go back to it." "Yeah, but I mean, it's gonna be weird if it just sticks around here forever with no one running it," she comments. Rebecca tugs her jacket straighter. "I'm sure the agency will think of something. For now, I need to inform my superiors of what happened here. The rest of you should head home. Your part is over." She heads out of the room, lines of worry etched around her eyes. I drag my phone out of my pocket to check the stacking notifications. "And I should get back to the station. Give me a call if I'm needed." We're smiling at her. I'll call you later anyway," Fra says as I offer a smile of goodbye in her direction. "See you all soon," I say, giving a brief wave to the others as I move out of the room. Mid-morning outside the facility in the deep forest. Sunlight struggles to push through the thick canopy of fresh spring growth on the trees, but a warmth still saturates the area. Spring is eventually finding its stride through the final clutches of winter. Small white flowers blossom on the bushes I am passing, my motion disturbing their rest and drawing out a waft of sweet fragrance that trails behind me as I go. It adds a much brighter moment after what just happened inside. Glancing down, I rummage for my car keys in my pocket, and that's when I feel a tickle of unease creep up the back of my neck. Something is off. There's a sharp crack and I swing around just in time to avoid someone jabbing a needle down into my neck. My eyes are wide as I stumble away, my back hitting the trunk of a tree. The young man who attacked me finds his footing before scowling up at me, a thick syringe grasped in his gloved hand. He looks barely more than 17. I'm so focused on and shocked by the ambush that I don't even see when someone else comes up from beside me and whacks their fist across my jaw. 1,000 tiny dots of light explode into my vision, and I'm sent reeling to the ground. My hands swing about in front of me as I try to blink my vision back, a welter of pain throbbing in my head. I grit my teeth to stem the mind-numbing ache. "You couldn't have just jabbed them already?" A voice snaps. "They already cost us one payday, and now you're looking to lose us another?" I tried, but there's a sharp huff of breath. "Give it to me, I'll do it." Footsteps tread across the forest floor towards me, and my vision returns. I look up into the intent gaze of a stranger who lifts the syringe above his head, about to arc it towards me. Try to figure out some way of using the forest to my advantage. My gaze scans the area in a flash of motion, time seeming to slow as adrenaline bursts into my veins. There's nothing in front of me or to the side of me, but there is something behind me. The man bears down on me with the syringe, and I simply shift to one side. As he crawls forward to bring down the needle, his head cracks into the tree I'd been resting against. Ah! He slumps to the floor, his eyes closed, and the needle rolls out of his limp hand. After shaking off the last of the pain to my jaw, I spring to my feet and glare over at the last trapper standing. The boy gulps, and suddenly an arm wraps around his neck from behind, the biceps of the arm large enough to almost smother the young man's face entirely. The boy slumps to the ground, breathing, but out of it, at the feet of Elidor. I stare at the trapper on the ground, then up into Elidor's hazel eyes. Now, why is he here? I know I should be grateful about him saving me at this moment, but why is he here? I had him, you know? Yeah. A frown catches my features as I nod over at him. What are you doing here? I was just arriving for my shift when I heard the commotion. When I saw what was happening, I hoped to help. He shakes his head. But it seems you didn't need the help at all. I nod in confirmation. He inspects the forest with a quick glance before staring down at the trappers on the ground. What were they doing here? I shrug. An order took their prize away, so here for another one, I suppose. Elidor flicks his eyes to me. Then you should be more careful from now on. I nod, rubbing at my cheek, where I'm sure a mottle of bruising is already beginning to form. Elidor stoops down to lug the trappers up onto his broad shoulders, one man for each shoulder. He barely looks weighed down by the effort. I should escort these two to holding cells. In the meantime, will you be all right? He asks, concern pulling his features into a frown. I raise a hand to calm his worry. Yeah, I just need to get out of here for a while. He hesitates before finally giving a nod. I will let the agency know of this occurrence. Then he strides towards the facility, the two trappers swinging like cloves on a washing line on his shoulders. Finally, I root out my keys and head to my car, my thoughts running to the ambush. The agency had tasked Unit Alpha with sweeping the town for remaining trappers before they left, but they'd found no one. Yet I get the horrible feeling that trappers are very much like bugs. You don't notice the infestation until it's too late. I guess word has gotten out about me. A heavy sigh eases out of me at the thought, but thankfully I'm at my car before the idea can fester. Slipping into the driver's seat, I encourage the engine to start and then press my foot to the pedal. The beat-up little car revs weakly for a moment before it rumbles and jiggles down the forest track. Late evening at my apartment. Despite the eventful morning, the day ended up being much less so. Mostly I just looked around for anything to do to fill my hours at the station. Apart from agency business, I really mean it when I say not a lot happens in this town. But the day had eventually drawn to an end. I'd passed the reins over to the night shift volunteer and headed home for the evening without incident. I'm barely settled on the sofa to eat before an eerie creak of footsteps echoes behind me. Launching myself from the seat, I swing around, raising my fork as a weapon and staring at the intruder. I'm not even slightly surprised to find Falk glaring back at me. His black eyes snap to the weaponized utensil before looking up to me with a sneer. I'm not here to fight, he explains. I lower the fork just an inch. Then why are you here? You didn't exactly part with us on good terms. Our new employer wishes me to deliver a warning, he states, his voice cold and devoid of any care. Employer? Guess we fought right. The leader of the rogues got to him. What warning? I ask, pointing the fork in his direction. I'm half pleased and half surprised to find he seems to be wary of me, even when I'm wielding this pathetic attempt at a weapon. She knows of you, human, he continues. Knows what your blood is capable of, what you are capable of. Hmm. She wants to deliver a threat, tell her to deliver it her damn self, I snap back in reply. He scoffs at my response, then stares at me for a long moment, making some silent decision. My fingers tighten over the handle of the fork. His decision apparently made, he suddenly launches at me over the top of the sofa. Attack as he approaches. He vaults swiftly over the sofa, and I do my best to judge where he's going next, but my judgment is way off. He shifts towards my left, and I swing away to attack, but his movement was a feint. He rams straight into me with his full weight behind him. I stumble back, trip on the coffee table, and smack my head on the corner. Ugh. I groan in pain as my vision explodes into white for a few seconds. When I can see again, Falk is staring down at me with a gloating smile. You have been warned, human. Then he turns and disappears through the glass pane of my window. I stare at where he had been, pain and a small amount of blood oozing from the wound. My heart hammers in my chest at the warning he just gave. Next chapter.